Welcome everybody to Hobby and Chat. I'm the Twinned Coot, and with me today is Age of Nagash, another YouTuber that covers Age of Sigmar content.
Hi guys, it's great to be on the channel again, and I really look forward to chatting about all the news we've been having over the last few weeks.
Yeah, glad to have you back. There is a lot of stuff. They've been just pumping out information on Age of Sigmar 2, Age of Sigmar 2.0, second edition, whatever you want to call it. The new set of rules for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, we truly have been spoiled, haven't we? I think even us, like YouTubers, it's been really hard to try and keep up with all the content coming out. But I'm sure we're doing our best, and hopefully having these longer discussions as well will make us cover not maybe absolutely everything, but the more important news that we've had lately.
Yep. Well, before we get into the news, let's start with just some hobby progress, gaming progress. Hobby progress, I've been working on some skeletons, because I figure I'm going to need skeletons as battle line regardless in Age of Sigmar 2nd edition. And have a big block, well, 2 big blocks of 40, and I think I'm just going to forget the other one exists when the chain rasps get out. But I got through like all 40 of them pretty much yesterday in the afternoon. I mean, I didn't finish them, but I got them all base coated. I was pretty happy with how many I got done. They're just so easy to paint, really.
How did you paint them? Was it did you spray them white, or did you do Xandru dust?
No, actually, I didn't really want to do the typical like white or tan skeletons, so I primed them black, and then I sprayed them Mechanicus standard gray. Not 100%, like about like 80%, like not in the recesses. And then I hit them on the top with this is all airbrush, obviously. Hit them on top with Dawnstone and a little bit of white, so a little bit like a lighter gray and then a white. So they, for some reason, it might just be me, they look kind of bluish to me. And I'm going to put a Athonian camo shade wash on them, so they're kind of like swampy, like stone colored, I was hoping for in the end. I think it'll work out.
Yeah, that should be quite nice. Like I say, it's quite different. I mean, with my ones, I sort of did the typical thing where I didn't spray them white, but I just sprayed the I think it was Chaos Black, and then over that was Rhinos Hide, and then just dry brush them a lighter and lighter and lighter browns until I got to like a sort of, a bony colour. I think I used Screaming Skull to finish off highlights and stuff. But yeah, that's the one thing I do love about skeletons is I find them anyway quite satisfying to paint, because you can get so much done in not a huge amount of time. Like if you spend like a solid day doing it, you can get a whole, like you were saying, a whole block of 40 all base coated.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Compared to similar things like, I don't know, if you look at things that are similar to them in combat as like Skaven Slaves, for example. You were to paint up a block of 40 Skaven Slaves, or sorry, not Skaven Slaves, but Clan Rats. That would take a considerable, much longer of time.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty much the same unit.
Yeah. I'm also trying to like make them like swampy, so I don't know if guys let me know in the comments, and maybe you know some ways. I'm like trying to make them look like they're just like straight coming out of swamp, and so what I've done so far is got the Lustrian undergrowth. It's like it's a texture paint. It's pretty much just green with just some flock in there, I think. But put that on like kind of their heads and their shoulders a little bit, just a little bit on their little places, and then dry brush that with a lighter green, and then I think that kind of looks like moss, like some kind of planty material growing, like algae maybe. And then I read online there is a way you can make hanging moss from like cotton and white glue and some paint and stuff. So I was gonna try that too, but I haven't ordered the components.
Yeah, it sounds like you've done your research. Or I'd say with the skeletons, that would look probably really nice, but if you are going to have 80 skeletons, it might take a little bit too much time.
That's
true. If you see where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
With like bigger things like Black Knights and stuff, who already have things like vines and stuff growing on them anyway.
Yeah.
It could suit it more than that. I mean, you're more than welcome to do it on 80 skeletons, but you might get a bit fed up after the first 40.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. So maybe I'll just stick to the texture for them and maybe do the moss on the bigger guys.
Yeah, you could do, because if you have the theme throughout the whole army, because obviously the skeletons are much smaller, if people can see it more like visible on things like Black Knights or things even bigger than that, they will naturally see that effect onto the skeletons as well.
Yeah, right. Good ideas. Also, I'm really preparing for Night Haunt, and I have green, like all my death stuff, all my spirits are green right now, and I don't know if I want to do the traditional. And green is kind of traditional. I think I want to try to do orange, maybe, is like angry, like almost fiery spirits. But I'm trying not. I don't know if I want to make them look fiery, kind of like the Jaws, the malign sorcery Jaws, kind of like that color was what I was thinking. I mean, that's kind of yellowish orange.
So would it almost be sort of, instead of being fire, would it be more like dust, like sand?
Yeah, maybe. And then, like their cloaks were gonna be like dark gray, almost black, kind of like a Halloween feel. I think was what I was going for. And then like little city bases. I got a rolling pin for green stuff. I don't know how that's gonna work, but you roll it on you put green stuff on a base, and then you roll it out, and it creates like a texture. I got like cobblestones. See how that works?
That's really cool. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out, because if that does work, it could be a really nice, simple way to make your base just a little bit different.
Yeah, right. So, what have you been working on? Anything?
With me, I've sort of been a little bit contemplating with, should I start some hobby work at the moment? Because things at work and stuff been a bit busy, and in my free time I've been thinking, I could work on some hobby, but I am just trying to wait until the new edition comes out, just so I know what I'm dealing with, rather than have in my head an army I want to do and then start it and build it up and then find out in the new edition it's completely changed. So I think I'm doing the sensible thing, which isn't usual for me. So hopefully my patience will be rewarded. And to be honest, the two armies I want to do are, well, there's a third one, the Seraphon as well, but I'll have to get to that whenever I get to it. But the other two are the new Stormcast Chamber and the Night Haunt, like you've already mentioned, as their models just look really, really nice. And you get them all in the new, well, you get a lot of their new models in the new box set. Mm-hmm. So I think my plan is to get that when it comes out. Well, I'm definitely going to get that, and just build up those two armies from there.
Cool.
I think that's what my plan's going to be. I have been tempted again to do another army this weekend, which was the Imperial Knights for 40k.
Oh yeah, that's easy. Just it's like 2 boxes, you're done.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing with 40k. Like I say, I'm not an expert on it by any stretch of imagination, but I found out you could just have an army of Imperial Knights, and that's actually got its own codex and everything. I was like, especially having got loads of time to paint up, just 2 or 3 slightly bigger models, and just have them roaming around on a table. I mean, the movement phase would just be a dream, wouldn't it? And it'd just be so much fun. I don't know how competitive it would be, but it would definitely be an army I'd like to do. And I was reading up a little bit about it, and I do like the heraldry and the sort of knightly orders they have within it, and like, aren't there like houses as well?
Yeah, they have. It's kind of like each planet, or some planets have a knight, and he kind of owns the planet. It's kind of like a old medieval hierarchy, and then they all pitch in to sustain this knight, and sometimes there's a couple knights in the house or whatever. It's pretty cool. And actually, the codex I think is going to be pretty decent. You could get there's that renegade box with 2 knights in it, and then the big knight, and you might have to buy one other thing, but that's an army. Yeah. That's a whole army pretty much.
I've looked at that renegade box, and that is really, really good value, isn't it?
Cool, yeah.
It's like, what's it? You buy one knight and you get another half for free. What's it like? Buy one get one half price sort of thing. With that sort of box, and you also get some scenery as well, don't you?
Yeah, you get a big piece of terrain too, and you could use that in the game too. That has rules, and probably sure it has point value too.
It is really tempted, and to be honest, I would have done it. I would have jumped straight into it if I didn't know that Age of Sigmar's getting this obviously huge release at the end of the month. Yeah. If they did one thing at a time, like I don't know if there was the Imperial Knights and then 6 weeks or 2 months until this new edition of Age of Sigmar, I probably wouldn't have good enough patience to wait for the new Age of Sigmar. I would just jump in with the Knights in the meantime. But because it's all so close, it's hard to justify it. Like starting a new army for like 2 weeks until the new edition.
Yeah, that's true. Well, aside from hobby progress, I did gaming progress. Last time I mentioned I was going to a GT. It was called the Burning Couch GT. Actually ended up with third overall. Had a lot of fun. It was great games. It didn't end up being a GT. It was still 5 rounds, but it wasn't enough people. So per ITC rules, it was not considered a GT. So I didn't get enough. I didn't get those amount of points or whatever. But it was still a GT to me because it was 5 rounds, and that was most gaming I've ever done in a weekend, to be honest. But I took Necrons. I had 2 Tesseract Vaults. I had 3 Ints of Immortals, a Lord, a Cryptek, and 2 Tomb Sentinels, which are they're big centipede guys. They have kind of anti-vehicle guns. The Tesseract Vaults are these big things that like shoot out mortal wounds at everything, and has a lot of shots with no AP on them. So I redeploy the Deceiver too. So he redeploys the vaults like up in front of people, and there's these 2 giant models with a 4-up invulnerable, 28 wounds, and just like everybody's just like, I don't know what to do with that, like, because it's just too much stuff right in front of you, you know. It just like shoots everything down. It did pretty well in all my games. So the tournament was being tallied by battle points, not by, I don't know what the alternative is called, but so your wins didn't matter. So that was kind of weird to me. It was kind of it was disheartening too, because I had 4 wins. It was a 5-round tournament. I had 4 wins, and I was in like 10th place. I was like, I'm the only other person other than the guy in first with 4 wins right now. Why am I in 10th place? So like I was kind of disheartened, and I allowed it to kind of I didn't try as hard in my last game, and I lost the last game by 1 point, and I made 2 like fatal errors, and I was like, I mean, to make excuses, I was tired, and I didn't feel like it was going to matter, because like even if I had all 5 wins, I still thought I wasn't going to place because of it was in battle points. But either way, lost, and then they did the first, second, and third, and they called my name for third, and I was like, what? Because they didn't do the first, second, and third by battle points. They did just the rankings in general by battle points, which is very confusing to me, and I don't know if you guys are following along either. But
no, I mean, I was going to say that's pretty confusing to me as well. I mean, I've never been to a 40k tournament, so I don't know if it is slightly different, but from Age of Sigmar, all I can say is I've been to, I think, like 4 or 5 now, and it is always done on, pardon me, it's always done on wins. So in Age of Sigmar, you can get like a major win, a minor win, or a minor loss, or a major loss, and depending on which one of those you get points. Like, I don't know, say a major win is worth 10 points, for example, and you've played 5 games in this tournament, so the maximum you can get for points are 50 points. And then if there's like a tiebreaker, if several people have got 50 points because they won all their games in the best way possible, it goes down to who killed the most, who's got the most kill points, that sort of thing. So the way you're describing it, and especially how it's like the last, do you say 2 games, but done a bit differently?
No, the entire ranking was not battle points. It had the wins in there, but so the ranking of who played who was just battle points. So because I was getting low battle points, I kept getting ranked with people that were losing like a lot of their games, and I was staying around 10th. And then the prize rankings or whatever, those were done with wins, in which I like shot up to 3rd.
I mean, that's good that you shot up to 3rd. Obviously, it does just sound a bit a weird way of organising it. I mean, I've never organised a tournament, so I'd be no disrespect to anyone, but I don't understand how it works.
Right.
And I mean, if I was there, I would be in big trouble.
Yeah, a lot of people were complaining about it, that it was just battle points, because it just was kind of weird, because people were losing games and still ranking higher.
So what are battle points, just so I understand?
Oh, sorry, battle points are like how many points you get during the game. Like, so a lot of times for 40k, a lot of people have been playing ITC, which is you get points throughout the game. You kill a big unit, you get a point. You kill a hero, you get a point. Stuff like that. So every time I did one of those things, I got a point. But my army wasn't really made for making points. It's more for just winning the games. So I wasn't getting a lot of points in my games. I was winning, but I wasn't getting many points.
Yeah, that's quite interesting because I mean, if I was to transfer that to Age of Sigmar, it's like obviously when you control objectives, you get points, and it's like those points you got from scoring those objectives in that game get added up to your tally on the like the score chart rather than the actual win of the game itself. So yeah, that sounds a bit funny to me. I mean, I do like the sound of your army though, because it sounded like the army I took to a tournament where it was Nagash, a Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, 4 Mortarch Archives, and I think that was about it. I think I could afford to have like 20 skeletons in there and 5 direballs, but basically it was all just the big monsters came out to play, right. And it was really, really fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
And again with Nagash, he will change in the future as Mystic Shield has changed, for example, but in this tournament he had a 2-up save, rerolling wands, loads of ways to regenerate wounds. It was at least 4 ways or 5 ways because of all the spells, and he just didn't die. Like, I've used him, I think, in 15 tournament games, and he's died once, and that's because there was a fatal error on my part. So I don't know if he's like this Tesseract fault you're talking about, but you just chuck him up there and the enemy can't do anything with him.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like I fought Marathi with Nagash, and there was the whole thing where Marathi can only take 3 damage, per battle round, so she's really hard to kill. And I was like, you think she's hard to kill, and Nagash is just unkillable at that point. But
yeah, I'd like to see how he does in the new edition. I'm sure he'll be. I bet he'll be better because I wonder how the endless spells will treat Nagash.
Yeah, well, the thing with Nagash is like when you, not trying to sound too arrogant and stuff, but when you go to cast a spell from him, a lot of the time you don't need to see what the casting, value is because he just casts it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I
feel
when it's next to like mystical, not mystical, but arcane terrain, he gets like +4 to casting. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, so I feel with my Lords of Sacrament army, I barely pay attention to what I cast because it almost auto casts every spell. Between Archon and even the Necromancers are auto casting most of their spells.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, for example, with Nagash, when I have him in these games, I always try and make sure he's next to arcane terrain. And if he's, I don't know, trying to cast a spell that has a casting value of 7, and if I roll like a double 1, is pretty much the only sort of times when I go to double check to see how many pluses he's getting and stuff, and he can still cast it. And in that case, if he needed to cast a spell that was, casting value 7, he gets +3 to cast, +1 for the arcane terrain. So he's getting +4 plus the 2 he rolled. So he's a 6. So he's just missed out on it. So from rolling a double 1 on a casting roll, if he's got, the benefit of arcane scenery, that 2 is now 6. Which, if you're not a Zeech army, that is incredibly amazing.
Right.
His power he can do.
Well, before we move on from the GT, I just wanted to shout out. It was the 4 Horsemen games or comics and games. It was in a mall. Sorry, I can't remember where it was. Morgantown Mall in West Virginia. It was a really great store. The tournament was fun. Besides the confusion of the points, but I don't think they're gonna do that in the future, to be honest. But it was a lot of fun. Really big store it was just like a shopping mall and really big store. Lots of tables. I don't think I've ever played Warhammer in a actual shopping mall.
No, yeah, that does sound pretty interesting as well. So it's, by the sounds of things, quite a big venue.
Yeah, there's 18 tables I think set up. There's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. And in America, is there because from this side of the pond in the UK, you sort of hear about Adepticon and the Las Vegas Open, but is there many other big tournaments outside of those, like regular ones, or?
Yeah, I think there are. I know there's the Nova Open, and I'm not sure when that is. It's coming up. That's North I don't know what it stands for, but it's actually in my area, kind of the east coast of America, near Washington. And I know there's a lot more, but there is a lot of big tournaments actually over here. I think we're spoiled for them.
That's good. Because the things like in the UK, you just get a bit used to having like Warhammer World, which to me feels like it's ages away, but it's only about a 4-hour car journey. And that just, in the UK, that's where I go for my tournaments mostly anyway. And like I said, it is a big venue, and you just got to get a bit used to it. But I have been to a couple of smaller tournaments, and to be honest, they can be just as fun, because it's all about obviously the people at these tournaments. Rather, it doesn't matter how big the place is or whatever. It's just the interactions you have. That's what I find anyway.
Yeah, I agree. So I got next week. I'm going to another GT in a local game store called Bel Air Games. But anyway, speaking of GTs, there's the South Coast GT. I can't remember which weekend that was. It was a couple weeks ago, actually, by now. But just wanted
it was the weekend of Warhammer Fest, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. I can't find the date on these guys.
The article of it was posted on the 30th of the 5th.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to real quick go through a couple of the first, second, and third, just so we can kind of talk about their list. The first one was a Vanguard wing. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I'm not too familiar with it. I know I should be, because I heard it a million freaking times. But he had the Constellant with the Lantern, the General Venator, a Heraldor, a Spellweaver. Wait, am I reading the wrong list? No. Spellweaver, Frost Phoenix, the Vanguard Wing, 5 Liberators, and 10 Skinks. So I guess that's just an order army, it sounds like. Do you know what the Vanguard Wing does? I should have looked this up before.
The Vanguard Wing, if I remember correctly, I fought one of the Stormcast battalions, so I believe it was called the Vanguard Wing. And when I say I can't remember correctly, it's because they have like 30 bloody battalions.
Yeah.
But if it's, like I said, if my memory does serve me right, it's one that I can't remember exactly what's in it, but it's basically you've got the long strike crossbows from the Stormcast, like the Vanguard chamber. You've got Judicators. You've got the Knight, the flying one with a little pet bird that does -3 rend and his bow. The sniper, basically. Mm-hmm. You've got him, and then you've also got the other alternative of him with the lantern. And like I say, you've got Judicators, and I think they're like the requirements for the battalion. Like I say, I can't remember what you need of each, but you've got those, and like those little ether wings, those birds.
Right.
And how the battalion works is that I think if the enemy is within range of the ether wings in the hero phase, like I think it's like 6-inch range or something of them, or 9-inch range, you can pick one of your units, and it can make a shooting attack against that enemy unit that's within range of those ether wings. I think that's one of the rules. And then the other rule is if one of your units from your battalion gets destroyed, you can pick one of your other units from that battalion, and it can make a shooting attack against the enemy unit that just destroyed one of your units. So that's quite a complicated way to explain it, but I did fight it about a year ago, so I can't remember completely, but it was very powerful.
Well, I brought up, I think this is it, the Vanguard Wing. It's actually 3 prosecutors, or 3 units of prosecutors and a Liberator unit. So the bird guys and then the Liberators. Is this really?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, and then they bring the 20-man Liberator unit. I think this is it.
Sorry, I was thinking of the bloody ether wing. Ignore everything I just said. The ether wing's good as well, but yeah, the Vanguard one. Oh yeah, I fought that in a tournament.
Yeah, if the Liberators roll a 6 to hit, they make 2 wound rolls, and I think they can teleport. But...
I fought that at Blood and Glory, which was a tournament in the UK back in November, I believe, and I fought it before it got FAQ'd. So the biggest thing what it could do, the guy had a block of 30 I think it was 30 Liberators, and yeah, it was. And he could basically teleport them around the board between like each prosecutor unit. And the game I fought him on was the battle plan was Scorched Earth, so it's where you need to basically stop the enemy from burning your objectives. And my army was a very elite army. It had 22 models, and this guy would just basically teleport 30 Liberators onto one of my objectives, burn it. Next turn, teleport onto my other objective, burn it. And then the following turn, teleport onto the other objective and burn it. And there was nothing I could do about it, mainly because back then, before it got FAQ, the Vanguard wing could teleport in and out of combat. So it didn't need to set up 3 inches away from the enemy, which I believe it is now. It could basically just teleport into combat. So, for example, if I made a ring around my objectives to try and stop the enemy from getting them, they could just teleport inside that ring and do not very nice things. I think 3 or 4 great hammers, are they grand hammers, are they, the Liberators have?
I can't remember what they're called, but yeah.
But 4 of them killed a Terrorgeist on full health. Whew. Yeah, with the, what are you saying, if they get a 6 to hit, they do
2 wound rolls.
Yeah, I think that played into it. They also had a 2-up save if you rolled ones.
Yeah. I know the Frost Phoenix lowers wound rolls around, so he's subtracting 1 from your wound rolls. The Spellweaver, I don't know what they do on the top of my head. That's that that Wanderer's thing.
A Spellweaver, I don't think it will benefit anything in that army in particular, but from what I remember, it costs 80 points and it's a wizard. So you get an 80-point, Mystic Shield, Arcane Bolt in your what looks to be a, Stormcast centric army.
Oh, she has an automatic dispel.
Oh, she has an automatic. Okay, that would be very handy against things like Zeech or, like I was saying, the Nagash. Incredible casting potential, but if she can just auto unbind it, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, so he's the one who won. The second guy, he had a very eclectic order army. So the first place and second place both had kind of mixed order. This guy had Dragon Lord, an Eidolon. So I guess the I don't know which Eidolon of Mathlin. I don't know which one of them, but it doesn't say. An Achelian King, Skinks, Bolt Throwers, and some Dwarf Warriors. That is pretty all over the place, I think.
Yeah, what place did you say he came?
He got second.
That's cool. Seeing to me, that's a very different army. I haven't seen that, or certainly haven't fought that before. So it's nice to see that doing well in the tournament scene, rather than just the typical top 5 armies you see a lot. So yeah, like you say, quite random, but yeah, I'm a big fan of that sort of.
Yeah.
And it probably shows that there's a lot of skill involved with it. You probably have to be quite a competent general to be able to make that list work.
Yeah, when you're grabbing from, I mean, I think there's kind of a fine balance, because there's the order people that kind of just take the best things in order, and then it's obvious that they're gonna do well because they have the best units. But then there's this guy who has, I mean, these are all decent units, like Skinks and Dragonlords are fine, but you just take all these random things and somehow they just combine into a perfect force, and I think it has a lot to do with the general, the person playing it.
Yeah, which is a really nice showcase of, like you say, generalship, isn't it? Rather than the army doing the job for you, it's your own tactics that come into it. Yep.
And I'll just do the last one. Is third place. He had a Nurgle army, Archeon, Glotkin, quite a few characters, a unit of 40 Marauders, and then 2 units of other Marauders, and then a Plague-Touched Warband. Can't remember again what that one does, but it's just a bunch of Nurgle bodies looks like, with Archeon and Glotkin.
Yeah, fair play for him for bringing Archeon and stuff. And again, that sounds like quite interesting list as well, isn't it? Like, you've got a couple of big guys where most of the points are invested in, and then you've got a lot of Marauders just to make up the numbers. And Marauders aren't particularly bad, especially in bigger blocks, because I think there's 60 points for 10.
Yeah, it's 200 points for a unit of 40. That's crazy. But yeah, you're right. 60 points for 10.
Yeah, which is, well, that will make them one of the cheapest units in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, they're as cheap as Skinks, which that's why you take Skinks, because they're so cheap. That's really cool.
Oh, and they're so good at surviving, aren't they? As soon as they get charged by the enemy, unless the enemy needs to wipe them out and it's that important, the enemy's going to attack with something else probably. So by the time it gets to your turn to elect a unit to attack, they can just run away, can't they?
Yeah. And
not have to fight, which is nice.
The last point I wanted to make about the South Coast, I looked through there's a spreadsheet that shows all the winners, and it doesn't say anything but their Grand Alliance. The sad thing was Destruction didn't show up until like 43rd or something like that. Like, they were nowhere near the top 10. Which that kind of stinks.
Is that true? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a bit sad then, isn't it? A little bit.
Yeah, because I naturally went to Death. I was going to complain, oh, Death's not up here very much. Because it wasn't. It was only a couple places in the top 10, but I was like, wait, where's Destruction? I like had to keep scrolling until I got to them.
Oh, gosh. Well, I think with Destruction, they've had a little bit of a roller coaster ride, haven't they? Because at first, in the first General's Handbook, they were very good, weren't they? When you had your Frost Lords and Stonehorns and your like Moonclan Grots for your numbers, and like I said, the Frost Lord and Stonehorn had like Battle Brew, and he would just be going around just destroying everything. And that army it did very well. And then that got changed in the second General's Handbook, I believe. And then they got hit quite bad with the cost of battalions for like it's the Cunning Ruck, isn't it, for the Bone Splitters that I think is very popular.
Yeah, that got way more expensive.
So it's just been made a little bit harder for them. But like we mentioned already, there is a new edition on the horizon, isn't there, which will shake things up hugely. I mean, the second General's Handbook shook the meta up a lot by having all these different new allegiance abilities, and then this new update, or the new edition, will be the biggest change to Age of Sigmar we've ever seen.
Yeah, for sure. That's all I got before we move on to second edition stuff, kind of the main topic of the video.
Yeah, that's all the stuff we've got. Just covered a few things that have been out in the community over the last few weeks, and then on to the more forthcoming stuff. So all the changes we've got.
Yeah, so let's start with the actual rules changes, because we went through quite a few of them in the last video, but there's a few we didn't cover because they didn't come out yet. First one I think of is piling in. It's only slightly different, but I think it is a really good change. So you don't, I don't remember the exact wording, but you don't have to get closer to the model. You can stay the same distance away, which ends up meaning you can scoot your model around. You can slide them around another model. So like once you're in base contact before, you couldn't move. No one could move once they're in base contact in combat. But now when you're in base contact, you can slide around the model. As long as you still stay in base contact, you can move around.
Yeah, that is a big change, especially for your bigger units, isn't it? Like you said, we've already mentioned blocks of 40 skeletons. If you made that mistake previously where you accidentally put your front, like, I don't know, rank of skeletons in base contact with the monster you're trying to pile into, you sort of, made a big mistake there, because everything else is going to be harder for them to pile in. But now, it's going to be so much more easier, and there's quite a few abilities out there, or battalions. Like, for example, there's one for the Flesh-Eater Courts called the King's Ghoul Battalion, I think it's called. And it doesn't sound like the best battalion, because one of the abilities on it is units in this battalion in the hero phase can pile in 6 inches. And that's not a pile-in attack, that's just a pile-in. So it sounds a bit bland, but now that you can, be in base contact and still move around the model, being able to pile in an extra 6 inches in the hero phase is pretty big, and then in the combat phase you get to pile in an extra 3 inches in attack. So that's 9 inches of movement around an enemy model's base before you get to attack it.
Yeah.
Which,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying that will change things quite a lot. And it's quite a weird change as well, because, like I said, I've been in the tournament scene a little bit, and it feels like a big thing when you accidentally put your thing into base contact with an enemy model that you didn't want to. That can change the game hugely. I don't know, if there was an objective, the enemy was guarding, and they only have a few more models guarding it, then you have to be able to take it back. If you've accidentally blocked yourself in by being too close to the enemy's base and you can't move around to the objective, and you can't take it back from them and score that extra point for that game, and you can't leapfrog their score, it's a long way of explaining it, but it does impact the game hugely from my experience.
Yeah, definitely. it was. I always found it kind of annoying. Like you had to pretty much say I'm moving into base contact because when you're taking out casualties or like whatever, a lot of times you're gonna get pushed out like a centimeter out of base contact, and then the opponent could be like, "Oh, you're not in base contact now. I'm just gonna pile in over here now or whatever." So it was kind of annoying that mentality of having to like lock the opponent in. You know, I guess there's still kind of that, but it's a little bit less now because you can slide around.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you're coming from. In this game, everyone knows models get knocked all the time, especially even if you're trying to measure to see if this model is within 3 inches of an other model. When you go to, I don't know, get a little combat gauge to see what the distance is, you're probably going to knock the model slightly, just tiny little things like that. And yes, in tournaments, certainly people do. Not everyone, most people are, you know, very good sporting and don't really care too much, but you do get some of the people who really do care if you've are now in base contact with one of their models, even if you weren't previous and you've accidentally just knocked it in there, they will not let that go.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I've been guilty of that. If the game is really, really close and you're quite high ranking in the tournament, yeah, it's a tournament world, I think.
Yeah, right. The army to me or the units in army that come up the most in my mind are Fire Slayers. Like they were already piling in like with all those buffs that I think they normally did. It was like 9 inches or 6 inches or something like that. They were piling in. Now they're like giant hordes of men just like surrounding the opponent. That's gonna be, I think, way more brutal than it was when it was already pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's going to be devastating, isn't it? And again, it's just extra movement that unit's getting. Like that's extra movement that unit's getting to capture that objective. And if, like for example, the battle planes are going to be similar to what they are at the moment, where a couple of them, I believe, if you have a unit of like 20 more models within 6 inches of an objective, you just auto take it if the enemy doesn't have a unit of 20 more models. If that is the case, and let's say you've tried to bog down this enemy unit of 20 more models so they can't get to your objective or get in range of it, however, you've forgotten now that they can pile in around the bases and clip the radius of that objective, and they've taken it off you, even if they're like 6 inches away, stuck in combat. They can. It's all about. We've talked about this before. It's all about movement in this game, and that's just helped it.
Yeah, completely agree. Anything that makes us more mobile is going to impact the game pretty heavily.
Yeah, and also just like one other thing, like we've covered already, it will stop some arguments in the game of people saying, well, are you in base contact? Were you in base contact? You know, that won't happen anymore, which is nice. Because it is awkward, even if you're playing in tournaments and stuff and you and your opponent have a disagreement about a rule. Yes, you can get the tournament organiser to come over if you really want to. I've never done that personally, but it just makes a bit of a drift, doesn't it, between you and your opponent, which none of you really want, over something so small and little.
Yeah, right. Well, the next one I can think of is the magic is slightly different. Well, really, unbinding is slightly different in that it's 30 inches instead of 18. That's actually a pretty good change because the 18 was like you're out of range for most casters unless you're on the front line with your Dispeller.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, especially when you had guys who just went on a Bellwind Vortex and just sat at the back of the board and just casted loads of spells at you, and there's nothing you could really do about it.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't really have anything more powerful in your army wizard-wise than a Necromancer. You're not really going to send your Necromancer, or if it's a Goblin army, you know, a Grot Shaman up the lines to be able to stop their spells.
Yeah, speaking of the Bellwind Vortex, I'm pretty sure that's getting a pretty heavy nerf, which I will be so happy about. And yeah, that would be really nice when that gets a huge, giant nerf. Yeah,
it will be. I mean, I'm sure. Have you fought a Gaunt Summoner on one of those things before, or many other not very nice things on there?
Yeah, well, also the Croaknado, I love Lord Croak, I love Seraphon. I refuse to use Croaknado. Like, absolutely not. Like, no.
The one time, like, I have got a Bellwind Vortex, and to be honest, I got it because I thought they were going out of stock, so I wanted to buy it before I went. And I have used it. I bought it for when I started a Angels army, and I did use it. I put my Weird Knob Shaman on top of it because he's got a very nasty spell, which you know, the Foot of Gork, where you can do D6 more wounds, and I thought
yeah.
just another D6. But yes, that is horrible. If you get it off, a lot of the time you don't get it off. It casts on a 10. I'd stick him on top of this thing to give him +1 to cast, give him the bigger range because he hasn't got a very good save, and it was just fun. It would either do nothing and be a waste of like 100 points on top of how many points the Shaman costs, or it could be devastating. It was quite risky, but yes, I know what you mean about the Crognado. I have fought against that, and yeah, there's many nasty things in Age of Sigmar, and that can be one of them. But it'll be interesting to see how Seraphon lists change, because I believe that's one of their best lists, wasn't it, Seraphon, the Crognado?
Yeah. And actually, that kind of pulls us into the summoning topic of this. Seraphon, I've been thinking about, because I kind of want to run them. I want to use Seraphon again, and I only have one Dreadsaurian. I might use a second one, but I don't know if that's what the new edition will be. I think I want to kind of summon stuff, and in which I would maybe be taking Croak, and I was thinking about just summoning as many Salamanders as I could. Like, I have 8 right now. I was going to build a bunch more, and I was going to start with 8. I think I had 6 maybe, and then just keep summoning more Salamanders, because that's the cheapest thing to summon. And to be honest, I think Salamanders are one of the best units in Seraphon. Like, with the right buffs, you can just make them reroll their 3s to hit. They do 3s to wound, and then they do d6 damage, and you don't really get a save. I think it's Ren 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah, I imagine a save is probably... Salamanders are one of those units where I looked at them recently when I was looking at doing the Seraphon myself, and they might go up in points. There's a slight chance, because they are very, very good for what they do. And probably the biggest downside is probably their cost in normal money, isn't it? It's probably the reason you don't see them as much.
Yeah, I converted all my cold ones, which I don't use, to Salamanders. They don't look that great, but I could have put more effort into them to make them look better. But I just been slowly converting all my cold ones into Salamanders, so they're not that expensive for me. But I don't know if they'll go down in points or go up in points, because they just went down in points with the new 2017 handbook brought them down from 60 to 40. So I don't know if they'll go back up to 60. I mean, maybe they will.
What, 60 what points?
Yeah, there was 60 points for one Salamander before. General Handbook's 2017 brought them down to 40 points.
Is that how cheap? Jesus.
Yeah.
I think they might go up in point. I was expecting you to say about 80 or 100 points or something. They might go up. I think what they have said is, now that summoning is, they don't want to call it free, but it's easier to acquire. You know, you can do it without spending, army points to get these extra units. So with bearing that in mind, I think they have said that they are going to maybe up the cost for those sort of armies and spread it out across the whole army.
Oh, okay.
For points. But to be honest, I'm hoping they don't, because in games of Age of Sigmar, realistically, what you want to do is put as many models as you can on the table and fight with them. So making things more expensive in points, it balances things, but it takes away from the game a little bit. So with the summoning for the Slan, it's for the Seraphon, it's the Slan, so Lord Croak being one of them. It's instead of casting a spell, isn't it? They get D3 Celestial
Yeah, I don't know what the resource is called, but yeah, Slans get 3 points every time they sacrifice a spell. You get 1 for having a Slan as your general. You get D3 for having an Astrolith Bearer, and then you get 1 other for doing something else, I think.
But it's an interesting way how this is going to be played, especially on the competitive scene as well, because be interesting when people get their heads around it, because one Salamander, for example, is 6 points, 6 in-game points to bring it in. And what are Razordons like? Are they quite good, or Salamander's better?
I don't like the Razordons at all. I think if you had 40 points left over, the only time I ever put a Razordon in my army is when I had just 40 points left over, in which one Salamander is really not going to do anything if you don't have other stuff for the salamander, but one Razordon might do a little bit more than that.
Yeah, when I looked at their rules, I mean, they do sound quite nice, but they sound pretty good if I'm honest. But when you compare them to the salamander, you just take the salamander.
Yeah.
In my own opinion.
Lord Crow can be pumping out 2 salamanders a turn, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because he has 4 spells. Sacrifice all 4, you get 2 salamanders, and then through other stuff you could possibly be getting a 3rd salamander. That's right now is 120 points per turn. That's pretty solid, I think.
Yep, and you can also summon skink handlers as well, which is nice. So to buff those units, and the addition with being able to we're going to go on to it in a moment, but because we're talking about Seraphon, the addition with command points, that's only going to help the Seraphon army, isn't it? I believe, because they have a fair few command abilities out there.
Yeah, they do have quite a few, and I would always be, when I took them before, I would always be thinking long and hard who's going to be the general, because either a command ability I wanted or a command trait or something like that. Now I don't have to think as hard about deciding. I don't remember when it came up, but I think it was between the Starseer and the Slan, because I wanted to use the Slan's command ability, but I wanted to use this. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, if you really want Lord Croak in your army, but for some reason you want to have the I don't know, I don't play Seraphon, but the Saw Soul Blood on Carnosaur as your general, so he can take a command trait and artifact, or you want to have a normal Slan as your general, but you want to have Lord Croak in there anyway because of his command ability. You can use it without him having to be the general.
Yeah, Croak's a really good example, because you don't really want to bring him as your general because you can't take a command trait, but his command ability is pretty good, and I bet you wouldn't even want to use the command ability all the time. Like, you might just have a point left over, just ready to go in case you need those rerolls for Croak, because that's what his command ability is. It gives you a couple rerolls. Be cool to save for when you actually need it,
Exactly. Unless you've got things like what I've been using recently anyway, like Nagash, his command ability is really, really good. I'm going to want to use that all the time. But apart from that, if I look at my Flesh-Eater Courts where, okay, they're changing a little bit, but currently I don't really want to use any of their command abilities because I don't have any apart from Inspiring Presence. And in the Flare army I've got, the biggest unit I can put Inspiring Presence on is a unit of 9 Flares. So it's not the most important thing to me. But if you could save up those points for something that's more important later in the game, it could be useful, especially how Inspiring Presence is changing as well, which is... some say it makes it stronger, some say it makes it weaker. I think it's changing, I think is the best way to say it.
Yeah. Going on to the endless spells, I wasn't a fan of these at first, because one of the first ones I saw was the Purple Sun's rules, and I was like, I don't like things that just die or just kill models. I don't like stuff that does that. And that's what the Purple Sun does. It's on a 6, but still. But they look pretty cool, and I didn't realize they were all coming in the same box, like the Malign Sorcery box. It looks fun just to paint. It's like 20 freaking random spells. They're all different. They look cool. I don't know. I think it'd be cool, just a hobbying project, whether you use them or not.
Yeah, I think so. And if they all come in one box, they can't be that expensive either. Well, I mean, they can't be that expensive. I mean, they're not. They won't be ridiculously priced because no one would buy it. You're
talking about real money, right?
Oh yeah, like real money.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think any of them are gonna be. I mean, maybe the Purple Sun is big, but I don't think the other ones are gonna be more than like the price of like a hero clan pack. If they sell them individually, which I'm sure they will eventually.
Yeah, at the moment you'll be able to buy them just as that big box, but I can imagine as time goes on and people, I don't know, they lose whatever the Fireball one is and they want it for their games, but they've lost it or it's broken or whatever, you should be able to buy them separately after that. But yeah, the Purple Sun of Shaiish is pretty powerful, isn't it? I think it probably is going to be the most I don't want to say it's the most powerful, but it's probably going to be the most deadly.
Well, I don't know the spell ports, umbral spell ports or something like that. They you summon one or you summon two. One goes next to you and one goes like 18 inches away or something like that. And or no, the port goes 18 inches from the other port, something like that. Anyway, you can cast a spell into it if you cast within like an inch or 2 inches or something, and then the spell goes through the other port. So like Nagash was the example I saw on Facebook. Nagash walks up to a spell port, casts Hand of Death, and then on the other end, like, just kills like Archaon or something like that.
Yeah, that would be quite fun. I'd have to try that out at some point. Yeah, well, exactly. This is just a prime example of how the new edition is just going to dramatically change things, isn't it? Because we haven't had something like that before. Like, which is, when I mean something like this, I mean, as far as I'm aware, like every army that has a wizard will have access to this ability or this spell.
Yeah, I believe so.
So, yeah, it's a really fun, new, interesting mechanic for every army, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of different combinations. And then there's the wall thing. I think they said you can't shoot through it. So, like, you just put that in front of your unit on an objective, and all right, now they can't be touched. You got to walk around this wall to shoot them or do anything to them.
Yes. Again, yeah, that's pretty good. Or, you got that one character, who likes to try and find something to hide behind because he's got a really good ability, or again, like a good spell, and he just wants to be outside of the enemy shooting, or I don't know, you've got a Flesh Eater Court army and you've got one of your courtiers to bring back your models, but you want them to be outside of the enemy, you just put them there, and yeah, like you say, it just makes a shield. And you've also got those chains, haven't you?
Yeah, they look cool. There's 3 of them actually in the set.
And they, as far as I'm aware, at the time of this recording, we don't have the rules for them yet, but they, I believe they'll do something like hamper the enemy's movement and all that sort of thing. So the enemy tries to move past them, they'll get chained down. Mm-hmm. So if you could stop enemy units, moving past a certain point, that's really huge.
Also, the Emerald Life Swarm. I'm looking forward to seeing how that works because that heals models. Be kind of cool to put back in the middle of your army and it just like runs around healing your stuff. Yeah,
that'd be interesting, especially in like harder armies like we've mentioned Stormcast or Death with all their regeneration, or Nurgle, for example. Mm-hmm. Just making them even more durable would be probably quite a good tactic. I imagine it's probably going to be seen quite a bit. Hopefully, it might be every model goes over, or every unit goes over, heals a wound or whatever, and it moves 2d6 a turn. So I don't know. It could. I imagine a lot of these spells are either going to do very little in some turns, and then some turns just absolutely everything. Which is fun, just adding that roundness. And that number 13 is going to be, the Emerald Life Swarm. Right. It's going to be a popular one, I imagine.
Yeah, we'll see how common they are. I think they cost points. They cost between 20 and 60 points, I think they were saying.
So they've already said it costs points. Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah, I heard that actually on Stormcast, the official Age of Sigmar podcast. I've been watching on YouTube. It's pretty good. It's like 13 minutes or something like that each episode. They've been doing, I think, 3 a week. They just cover the news stuff, and it's pretty much all stuff you've heard. But it's still interesting to hear them talk about it. They get like Ben Foley and Phil Kelly, like the guys who make the rules and stuff. They get them they interview them, and so you can hear a little bit more of the inner workings of what's going on, I guess.
Yeah, I quite like that. I've watched a few of their episodes, and yeah, like you say, they do mainly just talk about what's been put on the community page. But if you don't have time, or you've forgotten to look on the community page, it's quite nice just to watch that podcast, and it's just a nice little roundup in, like you say, about 10 minutes of what's happened today, what they've announced. So yeah, I think it's a nice idea, and it's quite nice to see their guests as well. You know, them who come up with the rules and all that sort of thing, and to hear their ideas behind it. And it's just another little sneak peek, isn't it? Until to see for ourselves.
Right. Well, the next rule is "Look out, sir," and I know people have been clamoring for something equivalent to that. I don't know if they went far enough, but it's definitely a good thing. It's I think it's within when you have a character model within 3 inches of other models, it's -1 to hit that character.
Yes, that is a welcome addition, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if that'll save my skink priest, but it'll definitely help.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know if that will save my courtiers from a fleshy courts, but it'll definitely help as well. It's a nice welcome addition. I think the community has been crying out for it for a little while. I mean, I don't want to say Shun was overpowered, but it did sometimes feel that way. Mm-hmm. How you could have a centric piece of your army, which I don't know is just a 5-wound hero with, I don't know, a 5-up save, and the enemy could just snipe him from potentially, 30 inches away, all that sort of thing. So it's a welcome addition.
Right. So the -1 is, like I was saying, it might not save the character, but it does, like long strike, the raptors with the long strike crossbows, they don't do, I think they do things on 6s to hit. It's like a mortal wounds or whatever. But
yeah,
models,
2 more wounds.
Yeah, models like that won't be getting their 6s to hit thing because they're -1. Like that alone is a pretty big protection.
Yep, certainly. And another example is Skyfires. How if they're -1 to hit with their shooting, but they've got, isn't there a shaman nearby that gives them +1?
Yeah, I think there is some way to get +1. I think it's the shaman.
So the shaman gives them +1 to it. So now they've got -1 and +1, they're just doing normal. So doing their mortal wounds for 6s. Yeah. And what the Skyfire general would do then is sacrifice them to damn terrain to get another +1 to hit. But damn terrain, as we'll look later, has changed, so you can't do that anymore. So that's just Skyfires, which are these horrible units that can just nuke enemies, heroes or units, whatever, are no longer that devastating anymore. They're still pretty nasty, but not how we know them to be, mm-hmm. which is nice. And another nice thing about this ability that makes sense, if the hero is a monster, it doesn't apply.
Right, yeah. So I was thinking about, in Daughters of Cain, when that first came out, I was looking at Marathi, and I was like, if you're in human form, like the little infantry model, like, if you take even 1 or 2 wounds, it doubles, like, so that's a big deal. So that -1 to hit that she innately has is not that big of a deal, but now she's -2 to hit, and I think Daughters have a way to get another -1 to hit. So you're basically not touching Marathi when she's in human form anymore, except with maybe magic or something like that.
Yeah, which is, I imagine, is going to help the army out a lot, which would be nice. And like in Death, for example, you've got -1 to hit through this. You've got Bat Swarms that gives you another -1. If you've got Neferata with her command ability, that's -3. I believe the Mongol does -1 to combat and shooting. So is that correct? Does it do combat and shooting, the Mongol?
Yeah, right.
But then again, there can't be in a Legions of Nagash army, so ignore that. So you're -3 to hit. If you put Overwhelming Dread on the enemy, that's -4. And then if you overcast that, or the Locus Shaiish ability, then -5 to hit. Will be hard to get all this off, and if you do, the enemy's probably not going to shoot that one hero, but
yeah,
it's the stacking potential there is pretty big.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Bat Swarms. That's a good point. I think they'll be a little bit more popular. I always thought they were pretty good. I never actually got around to using them very often, but it always has nice having the option to just summon a Bat Swarm next to some shooting unit, and that was just, they would have to deal with that or deal with the -1 to hit. But now that's even a bigger deal because you summon that. I don't know how that'll summoning work. I think it could come out of the grave sites, but
yeah, you'd put it in the grave sites like in reserve.
Yeah, so you pop up a Bat Swarm next to the shooting units now, and your character is even safer,
Yeah, it's that's something I used to do. I've been using Bat Swarms for a long time. No one really in the store even seen bat swarms, and I've made them all hate bat swarms now, especially the people with shooting armies, just because like you say, I summon them near the enemy. If I'm lucky, I get to charge the same turn with the bat swarms into the enemy unit, the shooting unit. Let's say they're Judicators, or one of them was a Glade Guard unit, and they can't kill the bat swarms in the combat phase because the bat swarms have a nice mechanic of healing, and the enemies certainly within 12 inches of the bat swarm, so they're going to be -1 to hit. And with the new rule to shooting coming out, being bogged down in combat with something you really don't want to be, hence the bat swarms, is going to make things even harder.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to segue into. Yeah, shooting, you can't shoot out of combat now. You can still shoot into it, but if you're a shooting unit and you get locked in combat, you can only target the models you're in combat with now, which I think that's a good change.
Yeah, if the enemy has to shoot my bat swarms, they're more than welcome to. If I can bog down let's say a 10-man Judicator unit or something like that with 2 or 4 bat swarms, their unit costs more than my unit. I don't care if my unit dies eventually. Their unit can't do anything for the whole game or whatever. It's a nice thing. And then if the enemy wants to get out of that combat, most enemy shooting units, if they retreat, they can't shoot. So again, It's just hampering shooting even more, which I personally, from what I've seen on the articles, I don't think this is nerfing shooting too much. I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but I think it's all quite sensible. They haven't overdone it.
No.
I don't know what you think, or...
I don't think so at all. I think if we can use 40k as a comparison, 40k shooting, the profiles on the weapons are more powerful. The HQ, the leaders or the lookouts rule is even more debilitating. You just can't target characters out when they're not the closest model. But also, the getting locked into combat is an even bigger deal because you can't shoot into combat. So there's some tricky things, but shooting is still the most powerful. Shooting is still kind of overpowered compared to combat, if you ask quite a few people. But there's even more restrictions, and shooting is still more powerful, is my point.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I've never really had a shooting army, so I might be a little bit biased. But with combat, you have to get little simple terms. You want to use your, let's take Blood Warriors, for example. You want to get your Blood Warriors to fight the enemy. Yeah, Blood Warriors, they're quite good in combat, but you have to physically move them towards the enemy and then charge and get to the enemy. Shooting, on the other hand, if you've got really good range, like many artillery pieces do, or the long strikes, which are the biggest crossbows you'll ever see, and can't believe they've got 30-inch range, or Skyfires or whatever, a lot of it's just a pointing game and saying that thing's going to die. Which that's my personal experience of it. I don't want to say too much because, like I say, I haven't had a shooting army, so I'm really not talking too much from my own experience with using shooting. But certainly going against shooting, it feels very much there's less skills in it. There's tactics, but there's less skills in the sense of you pick something, and if you've buffed your shooting unit, I don't know, so it hits on 2s and wins on 2s and it rerolls 1s, which is possible out there. It can just... Again, I'm over-explaining this, but if you've got, a hero in your army that you really, really like, and it adds so much to your army, and the enemy can just snipe it off turn 1, and the thing they used to snipe it off with was 30 inches away, and it doesn't feel like it requires much skill, because, like I say, they can just point to it and say it's going to die if they focus enough fire on it, which I think can be quite sad.
Yeah, shooting is very powerful in Age of Sigmar, for sure. So the last rules thing that I think we didn't cover last time is the artifacts of the realms and kind of battling in the realms, which I don't know how they're going to... So let me preface this. I don't know how they're going to implement this, but the way they're explaining it is they have 80 more artifacts or something like that, and a handful for each, probably 6, for each realm, and then each of your armies can pick a realm, and then they get these artifacts. I don't know if this is just kind of like how Warhammer Fantasy was with the common magic items. You had like 2 or 3 pages of common magic items everyone could choose. I don't know if it's kind of an attempt to do that, or if people are gonna choose these things, because it kind of feels like it's not going to be used in match
in a narrative
play.
way. Yeah, I mean, I didn't play Warhammer Fantasy, so I'm not too sure, but I like the idea of it. You know, you have a little back story for your army. I don't know. You've got, Sylvaneth, for example, prime example. Let's say the Sylvaneth are a little bit different. These ones, they actually come from the realm of fire. So you're going to pick an artifact, you know, representing that. And it adds a lot of, you know, narrative and a lot of story and stuff to your army. It really showcases it on the table. But I do see where you're coming from. People maybe might not pick the most narrative thing for their army. They might just pick the best thing. Competitively, is that what you're saying? People might go for the most competitive option rather than what this is maybe for, which is the most narrative option.
Right, and at the same time, I think I might be exaggerating with 80, but I think it was at least 60 things, 60 artifacts. I think it's hard to balance all that stuff with 200 plus war scrolls and then 80 of these items. Like, you're gonna run into a problem somewhere, and on top of that, you're gonna have like 5 artifacts that people actually use. It'd be too hard. It'd be too hard to balance all of those. I think maybe not, and then. One of the artifacts I saw was just like bonkers. The first one I saw was like, I never know how to say this. Hyish, Hyish, the light one. But the artifact is something like you teleport an enemy unit 24 inches away from you. Like, yeah, like that sounds bonkers. That sounds not balanced at all. I mean, maybe there's more to it, but on the surface, yeah.
I remember seeing that at first, and I didn't understand. That just seemed how the hell do you balance that? You could just move an enemy unit off an objective, or I don't know. It's like when I first heard about this, not that particular one, but just this in general. I thought, okay, they're going to do this, but all of these artifacts and whatever are probably going to be a bit bland, not that exciting, just to make it balanced. Mm-hmm. But as there's things like that out there, I don't know how this is all going to work. It seems a bit too powerful.
Right, I had the same mentality going into it before. I kind of was hoping they would just leave it for narrative play. Like, it's just, for me, it's just too much stuff. And unless they make them, like you're saying, bland, you're going to have these things that are teleporting units away, and like, I don't think that's good for the game competitively. So I don't know if they're going to use them. Maybe it's just not going to be used in match play, and that's fine and whatever. But I'm just confused on how they're going to implement it.
Have they said this is going to be used in match play? Do we know? Or
I don't know. I thought they did, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a bit unsure. I thought they said so as well, but that's fine. I'm sure someone will let us know down in the comments. But if that is the case, yeah, it's just. Well, again, it's another example of how everything's going to change, isn't it? It's how do you manage it? All this. It should mean that every army you fight is not the same army. You know, even if it's a very similar list, there's so many different potentials now with, like you say, artifacts, and so it's. I don't know how to describe how this is all going to play out. Just struggling to try and find the words, really.
I think with armies that don't have battle tomes or don't have allegiance abilities, stuff like this is awesome. Like, if you want to like really try to bring your clan Eshin and with your 2 models or 3 models or whatever it is, and you have some like really cool artifact that makes it work, then I think in that case it's cool. But then if you're adding them to like a Sylvaneth force or an Order army that is already picking and choosing the best units, and now you have the best artifact too, it just kind of seems weird to me. It doesn't seem like it's going to work.
I agree with you. I think the intention is for those armies that unfortunately don't have battle tomes, and there's no chance of them getting any battle tomes soon. Like, just trying to think of an Order one, like you said, the Clan Eshin or
Shadow Blades.
I don't know, like like Shadow Blades or Order Serpentis, is it? or Order Draconis.
Yeah, right.
They're not going to get back to it anytime soon, if at all. So, yeah, it's very nice for those armies, especially how there was Firestorm that was out for a little bit, where it had like allegiance abilities, and then I think they've taken them away from match play, or most tournaments don't use them. Right. So if you can use these for those armies, it's lovely, because there might be someone who really likes Clan Eshin and they really like, the lore about them from the old world and all those sorts of things, but unfortunately they come into Age of Sigmar and there's not really much going for them. If they have access to all this stuff, they can maybe build the army they've been dreaming of and use it in game to a competent level. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think in situations like that it'd be cool, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
It'll probably get abused, yes, but like everything.
I think that's all the new rules that they've gone over. There's a lot of... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think we talked about things a little bit, didn't we, in the last video? Right. We talked about a few of the other rules.
Yeah, we got the turn priority already, and command abilities
we've talked about. Command points, haven't we, I believe?
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the faction focuses. There's quite a few that were covered in since our last video. I'm not going to go over all of them. Maybe we can pick one out at the end that we want to cover. But we did want to cover, definitely need to cover, the Nighthaunt and Stormcast. They put a Faction Focus 2 out, a second article out, and they actually included 3 War Scrolls in each Faction Focus. And actually, sorry, before I get to that, we should probably just talk about the Soul Wars box set, which kind of leads into that Stormcast and Nighthaunt box, or units. This thing looks awesome. I'm already found somebody to split it with, luckily, even though I kind of... I am ashamed to say, but I kind of would have liked to have the Stormcast and paint them. But anyway, I found someone to split it with, and really, really pumped to get that Nighthaunt stuff. There's a lot of models in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was like some images roaming around Facebook and stuff a day before what they showed us we're getting in the box. I think they like these images on Facebook showed us don't worry, we are actually going to get all these models in the box. But I think some of us were like, that's going to be too many models, isn't it? But no, we are generally getting a lot of models, and because these are going to be push fit ones, but they look so much dynamic compared to the first Age of Sigmar box set, of Khorne versus Stormcast, that you feel like it's, like you say, you're getting a bit too much, don't you? Like, they almost look a little bit like, probably over exaggerating this, but they almost look like a bit like a mini Battle Force box each, don't they? All in one big box.
Yeah, I mean it's like 2 or 3 start collectings each, really. That's what it translates into. I remember when everybody was looking at these pictures, they were like, this is just all the Nighthaunt Stormcast stuff that's coming out right next. Like, that can't be what we're getting in the starter set. And sure enough, it literally was what we're getting in the starter set. And do you like push fit stuff? I like it, but it's also kind of harder to convert at the same time.
I'd say push fit, it limits conversions, which annoys me a bit. Because, for example, with this, I was going to buy it for myself, but my mate, who sort of like dips in and out of Age of Sigmar, really wants to get it, but we can share the rule book, for example, and we're happy to paint up both armies in this box. So I was like, instead of us both buying it separately, might as well just join up together and get it. So we're going to share it. I'll paint both sides of it. So that's all good. And then when it comes to push fit and stuff, I do, like I say, it does shame me to say it, but I do like the Stormcast, unfortunately. I haven't shifted it off. My local store manager recently went to Warhammer World and came back, and they were given example models to take back to the store. So I have seen some of these models in real life, and yeah, even the Stormcast ones that I thought weren't the best, like the sort of Paladin Wizards, yeah, they're really nice. So basically I really want to do both armies. And going back to push fit, it saddened me a little bit though, because the some models in the Stormcast, like for example I can't remember their names. What are the like female liberators you've got?
The Sequitors.
Yep, that's the ones. I would have really loved to have some of them without helmets. with faces. I think we mentioned this before. It'd be like really nice to add characters to the army. Unfortunately, you won't be able to do that with this box set.
Right.
But apart from that, push fit, especially if you're pushed for time, it does really help you. And if anyone's built Spirit Host before, you'll be very happy that these Nighthorns models will be push fit, because they were an absolute nightmare.
Yeah. And any of the negative stuff we're saying, it overrules the fact that it's a starter box, and or it's overruled by the fact that it's a starter box, and any starter set should be push fit. Like I'll say that whether I don't like push fit or not, I like push fit, but conversion potential, like I'm saying. But for a starter box, push fit is absolutely the way to go.
Oh, I completely agree. And like I say, push fit, like I say, it limits conversion options. Not gonna lie, all the models I get in this box, I'm going to build them exactly how they are anyway, because their poses are really good. And then if after the third box I get, which might happen, I will maybe try and do some conversion work. But yes, I do agree that all star boxes should be push fit, because everyone in this hobby, we can all agree that we want to get more and more people into the hobby. Even if it's not a job, even if we don't work for Games Workshop, we like to encourage people to start. And we don't want them to buy a big box set with loads of models. It's the first time they're doing anything like this in any sort of hobby, and then they go, well, this one little ghost has like 15 pieces to him. How the hell do I, glue that together?
Yeah, right.
It makes things easier for them. It makes them like it more, and it makes them want to stay in the hobby. So completely agree with you there.
Yeah, so I'm pumped about that stuff. It also comes with a big, nice looking hardback rule book. That looks really nice. Luckily, I'm getting that part of it in the split.
That's good. And that's the nice thing. It's a hardback, and we can definitely say it's a hardback. They've shown it off. We've seen it in pictures. You can see it's definitely a hardback, and that means it's something that I'm not going to have to buy separately, because there's a lot of stuff coming out. Obviously, I need this box set. Like I said, I'm going half swing, getting this box set. Also need the General's Handbook. I'm also going to buy the new spells coming out. The models. Mm-hmm. I'm also going to get the Nighthorn Battle Tome. So if the core rulebook wasn't in this box, it starts to add up to quite a lot of money.
Now, did they actually announce a Nighthorn Battle Tome?
They announced the Nighthorn Battle Tome, didn't they? But they haven't mentioned it in this Soul Wars, as far as I'm aware. I
don't think it's coming out this month.
The trailer said June 2018.
Okay, cool.
So, I'm pretty sure it did. So, like we say, they mentioned all this stuff coming on pre-order on the 16th, but they might make a couple other things go on pre-order on the following weekend, mm-hmm. which will be the 23rd. Yeah,
everything you listed is stuff I'm buying too. Yep. Yeah,
and General's Handbook, at least if I do it in pounds for my sake of making things easy, that's going to be 25. The Nighthorn book, that's going to be 25, so that's £50. The new spells, I don't know, £30. That's £80. This box set, I guarantee, is going to be £95. So that is, was it 170, 160? Can't do maths. I think £175.
Yeah, right.
So already that adds up, and obviously I'm going to need to get some more spray and some more glue and stuff to put all this together.
Yeah, I will just put it on the counter and not even look at my total, because I don't want to know.
Yeah, I've been saving a little while for this. I mean, like I said, that's another reason I didn't start Imperial Knights, just so you've got the money ready to go. As soon as this drops, you can just... I'm hoping there's a pre-order bundle, which won't be a discount, but it'll be a pre-order bundle where it'll just have everything, so you can just add that to your cart on the website, and it just probably comes to a silly amount of money, but it will be nice. There's little things as well, aren't there? There's like dice for like command points and for scenery, and
mm-hmm. I don't know if they're in
extra bits.
I don't know if they're in the starter, but yeah, they are coming out too.
Yeah, to be honest, they won't be in the star box, but there's so much that's going to be in there anyway. They keep you busy. There's the cool rule book. There's a little rule book of I I believe like Soul Wars, so what the battle was about, like they did in the first Age of Sigmar, starter box. And then there's also the new core rule. Well, they're not called core rules anymore. I think they're just like, the main rule pages for Age of Sigmar. Instead of now being 4 pages, they're now 18 pages or 16 pages, I think.
Yeah, that's the Start Here book that's shown up.
Oh, so the Start Here book. Okay, yeah. So there's that to read. There's the core rule book, which I think is 300 something pages.
320, I believe.
320, but there's going to be a lot of narrative, a lot of lore in there. They're showing off a lot of maps for like what certain bits of the realms look like, what I'm really excited for. And because I'm quite big on the lore and stuff, what I do really like, what they've mentioned about the core rule book, is that there'll be like little snippets of what it's like to be a citizen in each one of the realms, like what it's like to be a normal person in each one of the realms, which will be might sound very small, but to me that will add so much depth to these realms.
Yeah, definitely.
Because in the old world, it was very much laid out, and it was maybe getting a bit. We're not going to get in that conversation, but maybe could have done with a change, so they got rid of it and stuff. But it was very much nicely mapped out. You knew what everything was, and you knew what, like a citizen of the Empire, what they would be going through on a daily basis. You knew what even people like Sylvania were going through, or what it was like in Lustria. All those little things. It's just bringing that back into Age of Sigmar a little bit, which sounds very small, but excites me a lot.
No, yeah, it adds depth and realism, and like allows you to kind of jump into the story a little bit more.
Exactly. It's like, how does like someone from the Free Peoples, obviously they're not the same in every realm, are they? So how does one in the realm of life differ from one in the realm of metal?
Yeah.
Like, just even if it's just like one page on saying what it's like in all these realms, just adds so much realism. I think the word you use, and I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, and even more than just like how you feel about the game, it adds conversion potential, which I feel like the last 5 years or so, maybe more than that, Games Workshop, maybe a little bit less right now, but Games Workshop is kind of not giving us any inspiration for conversions. Like, all their artwork was exactly what their model was, exactly how it looked. And like before, they would put in pictures of other people's converted stuff. They would put artwork in there that wasn't necessarily exactly represented in one of their models. So it would give you ideas to convert stuff, and you saw more conversion back then. But now you don't see it as much. But with things like this, like, hey, this is what Free Peoples looks like in Ashy. Here's what they look in Gairan, and it looks different than how the model actually looks. You can convert them 2 different ways, or however many different ways.
I completely agree. I mean, and one of the things like they talk about is how, like we've already said, like how life works in each of these realms, and how they are designed, and the layout of them, and the layout of the cities. And it will really, like you say, with conversion work, it'll really go, I've just read so much about, like the realm of metal or whatever, and I really want to base my army in it. And I don't just mean basically what everyone else has been, well, what most people do is just, literally just base their army, just put different details on the basis depending on which realm they're from or whatever. They will actually go, I'm going to really convert my models up to make it look like they've got this type of metal on them that's only found in this region, what they've mentioned in the book of, like the realm of metal, or, different areas of the realm of life. It's just, like you're saying, just adds in that much more motivation to do conversions, because you've been inspired by what you've seen in these books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got for that. General's Handbook also looks like a very nice looking book, and obviously it's going to have all the things we're expecting: new points, new battle plans and stuff. But one of the pictures I had to notice was I don't know if it's a different battle plan name, but it's the Relocation Orb, and it's it used to have this map that was like insane. Like, maybe I'm just dummy, but I could not figure out how to line out this map and how to put the objectives in. It was very convoluted, and it looks a little bit better now.
Yeah, Yeah, Total Conquest was its name.
Okay.
Yeah, that map is like I said, I've been to like 3 tournaments or 4 tournaments since the new. I think I've been to 5 since the new Germans per Handbook came out with that Total Conquest map, and it's like every tournament I went to, didn't matter how experienced the player was, it could be someone who's won tournaments or whatever, struggled to set up this battle plan because it just had no measurements, had one measurement on it that was not useful at all, which just told you how far you had to set up from the enemy. And in the Age of Sigmar podcast, did you watch? I think it was the last one where they sort of joked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said like, man, Total Conquest has had like a little bit of a change because they weren't going to criticise it, but they said, people were scratching their heads a little bit too much when they came to trying to set up their army. Because that literally, in most tournaments, it took 20 minutes to set up the battlefield layout of. It's like one game I had against someone with a murder host that had 120 blood letters in it, and I literally just said to him, in this battle plan, I probably wasn't going to win anyway, and I just said to him, because he had a 1-drop army essentially, he just was going to set up his whole army first, just to basically set out the deployment zone with all his blood letters.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the best way to measure out the deployment. It was silly. So yeah, that's nice. That's changing anyway.
Yeah. All right, so you want to move on to Stormcast or Nighthaunt?
Let's do the boring one first. Let's do Stormcast.
Okay, agreed.
I mean, joking. Like I say, Stormcast. I love the look of the new ones, but let's get them done first.
Right. So in the faction focus, what do they call it? Faction focus part 2 for Stormcast Eternals. They start with the Evocators. They give out the Warscroll for them. They actually have 4 attacks, hit and wound on 3s, Ren 1, only damage 1. But they also can reroll save rolls of 1, and when they're in combat, they pick a unit and they roll 2 dice, and for each roll of 4 up, they do a mortal wound. So I think they come in units of 3. So you'd be rolling 6 die, and I guess 3 of them are going to cause mortal wounds. That seems okay. They also are a unit that casts spells. If they have a unit of 2 or more, they can cast 1 spell. And they only know 1 spell, and it's called Empower. Cast on a 6. You pick a Redeemer or Sacrosanct unit within 8 inches, and you reroll failed wound rolls. That's not bad. I don't know what Redeemer keyword applies to, though.
No, we haven't looked for that. Well, we haven't seen that yet. And to be honest, when I read that, I was like looking at, well, this Warscoll is going to have to redeem a keyword, and it doesn't. So I'm going to have to see what that means. It would be really, really interesting if that's like a keyword which like the voters to Sigmar or like some free people are going to get. So it's like some spread fraction ability, but I doubt that is the case. But yeah, that's the nice thing about that spell is, like I say, you can cast it multiple times with like if you've got different units.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. And with the mortal wounded in combat, it's almost essentially when the unit's at full strength that you've got a Star Soul Mace in the unit, which would be nice, maybe a bit better than a Star Soul Mace.
Yeah. Also, these guys have 3 wounds. I didn't mention that. About the Redeemer keyword, I have not checked this myself, but I did hear on some other YouTube or somewhere that the Redeemer keyword does exist on Stormcast models already. I don't know who has it, but that's what I heard. I never looked it up.
Okay, fair one, yeah. That's must be just trying to think. Obviously, Redeemer sounds like people who have lived bad lives and then have I don't know joined Sigmar to try and change their ways. So I don't know. Is there any units in the Stormcast army that are like they were bad and then they've joined Sigmar for good? Because
no, I don't know. Is that priest guy? Wasn't there more to his story or something like that? The one with the
Which
skull
guy was that,
face.
sorry?
The one with the skull mask.
Oh, the Relictor. Yeah, so, well, he lived in the realm of death, so Shaiish. So that's why he's very good with like basically channeling Stormcast back up to Sigmar when they die. Oh. So yeah, maybe it could be him. Or it could be the Knight of Shrouds who wants to redeem himself. I'm not too sure. Hopefully Knight of Shrouds.
I like your idea with the Empire people being Redeemer. That would be cool.
I think I've shot myself in the foot with that. I don't think that is going to happen, but it would be really cool. I love cross fraction abilities.
Yeah, me too.
it's Sisters of the Fallen on their stags, where they can, put their spell on any order unit. It just adds so much more function to that ability. Which, yes, Stormcasts have a huge range of models, so they are basically their own Grand Alliance, so it doesn't really matter. But it's nice to spread, to have I'd really like to have an order army, just so I can include the models I like. And you think, like, well, the Stormcast might look a little bit out of place in a Free People's army. So maybe you convert up the Free Peoples a little bit, so you give them some more armor plating on the, just their normal uniform, or you make the Stormcast look a little bit more like Free People. Again, it just makes you want to do some more conversions. So
yeah, the Idoneth Deepkin, there's that one, I don't know what they're called, the little factions within Idoneth Deepkin, the Conclaves, I think they're called. There's that one that lets allies use their ability, and like, I think I've talked about this before, but stuff like that like really gets my mind working for conversion stuff and for tactical synergies and stuff like that. It's more fun. It's just more fun when they combine and they mix a little bit more. It just gives you more to think about.
Yeah, and it's again, like, another example is a bit older now, but the Sylvaneth, they're the first ones to have like battalions. That I think some of the battalions, like in this battalion, you can include up to like 2 Dwarden units, or whatever the Warhammer word is for dwarf units in there. Or there was like one where you get to include 1 order unit. It just made it a lot more fresh and less stagnant. It just keep the game fresher, and you didn't just see the same army over and over again.
Right.
But so they're the Vectors.
You move on to the Celestar Ballista.
Yep, which is basically the first minigun, isn't it? Almost. Well, no, I suppose the Skaven have got that, but it shoots lightning, isn't it? I believe.
Yeah. Bolts of Blessed Sigmarite. So I wasn't too impressed by this, but now I'm thinking about it a little bit more, and it probably is a little bit better than I was originally thinking. It's got 2 modes of fire. One is a single shot, one's a rapid fire. The single shot is 36 inches, single shot, 3s to hit and wound, AP or Rend 2, and then the rapid fire is only 18 inches, so it's half of that, but it's 4 shots. It only hits on 5s, and it's still AP2. The thing that makes the Celestar Ballista pretty good is the Chain Lightning ability, where for each hit roll you make, you roll D6 hits. So when you're rolling the rapid fire, you get 4 attacks. They're only hitting on 5, so that's only 1 or 2 hitting. So it's 1 or 2 D6 shots instead of 4. I don't know. Is that great?
Not really. I mean, to be honest, even if... Okay, so the single shot is obviously for sniping heroes and stuff, isn't it? But, for example, if you wanted to shoot a hero with the rapid fire, like say you're hitting on 5s, if that enemy hero is not a monster and it's within, 3 inches of a 3-man or more model unit, that's another -1 to hit.
Yeah.
That's hitting on... Yeah, it's... I mean, if you were to look at these stat lines without reading the chain lightning rule, it does sound pretty poor. I think the single shot is definitely the best, though. Because it's not like 40k damage will carry over onto other models in the unit.
Mm-hmm. So, but defensively it does seem pretty good, so it could be just pretty cheap and just a defensive little thing that just keeps spitting out stuff. It's got 7 wounds and a 4-up save, but when it's in cover, it gets 2 to its save instead of 1. So when it's in cover, it's got a 2-up save. And obviously, Stormcast have been waiting so long for a War Machine. The poor guys have not had a War Machine since day one. Finally getting one. And they've been wanting one because of the Lord Ordinator. Obviously, he adds 1 to hit rolls for Order War Machines. And he also will let it shoot twice. So if we did the rapid fire then, it's really 8 shots hitting on 4s. And when they hit, they're getting D6 shots, so it's like 4 D6 shots, basically, when you're doing it like that.
Oh, yeah. If you want to use, the command pointer for him to use that ability for it to shoot twice as well. An 18-inch range, like 36-inch range is big, but 18-inch range, I know there's things out there that have 20-inch range and stuff, but it's not bad as an 18-inch range. I mean, if I'm looking at my Death armies, most of their shooting's like 9 inches, so that's double that. Yeah, again, if it's +1 to hit, it's hitting on 4s. If you really, really wanted to, you can have what's that order like war machine that's being pulled by 2 horses that have like a planetarium on top of its back?
The
Celestial Hurricane,
yeah, right.
That gives it an other +1 to hit if you wanted to do it like that. And then you've got hitting on 3s.
Yeah, that's pretty good then. It's only 18 inches though, and that uses a command ability for
it's
probably going to be like 120 points or something like that. I think the Ren 2 is going to be a nuisance though. I think that will be, once it hits, I think it will be kind of annoying with that Ren 2.
Definitely, especially how Mystic Shield now, no longer gives you +1 to your save. It allows you to reroll save rolls of 1. So Rend is even more important now.
Yeah, that means most armor saves are going to be on a 6, or most sturdy armor saves are going to be a 6 or worse.
Yeah, I mean, and even if I look at a Warscoll, for example, my Flesh-Eater Court, say I haven't got it within range of one of my units to make the enemy -1 to hit it. If the enemies hit it with, I don't know, say I've got to do 4 save rolls, -2 Rend, doesn't get a save against that. It's only got a 5 up save. I used to put Mystic Shield on it, but I can't anymore. I can't give it a +1 to its save anymore via that. So yeah, it will change things up a lot. And just another thing with this War Machine, 7 wounds, is that quite a lot for War Machine?
I think it's about average, but the 4 up save is pretty decent for it.
Yeah, especially 2 up in cover. I don't know why you would want to do this, but if you really wanted to, Mystic Shield on it, so saving and re-rolling on 1s.
Yeah, I think the things like the Plague Claw, I think they have like 8 wounds, I think.
Oh, okay. But this is, I was going to say, in the picture this looks small, but it's, the Stormcast are quite big next to it, aren't they? So
yeah, I figured they're 2 wounds each, so the thing is like, what, 3?
That's the other, and also with all the War Machines, when I've gone up against them, the way I deal with them is just kill the crew. It's a lot easier. But on this side, you've got to have 2 guys that probably have a 4 up save and 2 wounds, so that's quite hard to try and just chew through quickly.
Well, the crew are counted as part of the Warscoll. I think you just kill the whole thing at once.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Ballista and its crew are treated as a single model.
Okay, that's the first order War Machine like that, isn't it? Because if you look at like the older elves ones and stuff, they usually have like 2 crewmen, or the dwarf ones from the Armwood Arsenal. So that's interesting.
I always like that because it kind of gives you the option, like sometimes the crew would be able to hide behind the War Machine or something, so they'd be harder to hit, but then the War Machine has like 8 wounds or something, so it's harder to kill. So I always thought that was kind of neat. Certain armies would fire at different targets, you'd have to think.
Yeah, which is nice. But so that's changing. I think it's, like I say, some people a bit disappointed with this thing, with its combat ability, but I think it can be very nice, especially if you have the Lord Ordinata next to it. Even if you don't want to use a command point for him to use his command ability, you're now, like you say, making that rapid fire hitting on 4s.
Right. I think if they're decently costed, I think they're going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's obvious.
I think that's the best save one of these War Machines has got, isn't it? One of these artillery pieces.
Right. Let's move on to the Sequitors. Those are the sacrosanct battle line, supposedly. I don't know if they've said that, but that's assumedly what they are. They have a mace and a shield. And when you look at them, they're actually kind of just straight up better than Liberators. So I wonder how that's going to work. So they. Yeah. You want to go through the scroll?
I was just going to say, when you were talking about battle line, they haven't confirmed it, but they more than likely will be. And I'm tempted to say that they will be 100 points for 5, even if they are better than Liberators. I just don't see the Stormcast being that much more expensive. But did you want to go through its Warscoll?
Sure.
Because I've only had a quick look through it, so you'll probably know it better a bit more than me.
Yeah, they got normal Stormcast, 2 wounds, 4 up save, 5-inch move. They have 2 weapon options. The mace, the Star Soul mace is their main weapon. It's 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, but no rend on that one. Liberators, their main hammer does have rend, doesn't it? Or their hammer is rend, their sword does not, or something like that.
No, there's like special weapons do. So, for example, you've got I think it's the Great Blade or something, which is like the special weapon for one of the units with swords. They will have rend, but they're normal weapons, hammers or swords, just dash.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So then it is equivalent. But the Great Mace, 1 in every 3 models can take that. I think that's the same rule for the Liberators, but that's also 2 attacks, rend 1, damage 2. So I guess that's where it's not quite as good.
Yeah, but then again, we're just looking at the normal like Storm Smite mace.
Right.
The Liberators, if you take them with swords, they hit on 3s and wound on 4s. So if you take them with hammers, they hit on 4s and wound on 3s. But these guys just hit on 3s and wound on 3s.
Yeah, and these guys have a higher bravery, which I always found 6 bravery on Liberators. I always found that kind of odd, because you think they'd be kind of braver than that. But I'm not complaining, because it always came in handy. But,
I think it was just like a weakness to them.
Right.
Like, otherwise they would be too good, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And they probably needed the Stormcast need a battle line unit that's not more than 100 points. If they gave if the law was that strong, they would probably give the Liberators bravery 8 or something, and then they would have to be like 120 or 130 points for a 5-man unit.
Mm-hmm.
So but anyway, you're going on.
Yeah. So the Soul Shields, I don't know if that's the same name, but the shields are the same thing. They reroll 1s to saves. So that's pretty cool. So the rule of the Secretors, their main rule, they can channel their etheric channeling. They channel their lightning or whatever into their shields or their weapons. You choose before I think in your hero phase. No, it's in the combat phase. You can either reroll your save rolls or your hit rolls. So I guess I was thinking that meant outside of shooting, but it's just combat phase. Looks like. So you're not getting reroll saves in combat or in shooting, just in combat. That's still really good.
Yeah, especially how they're rerolling 1s to save anyway.
Yeah.
Is it a new thing that the model you're making the save roll for doesn't need to have the shield as long as you have a model with a shield in the unit? If you've noticed, you can reroll save rolls of 1 for this unit if any of the models from the unit are carrying shields.
Oh, it's gotta be because it would mess up with the maces. Yeah, that makes sense. I just looked at the Liberators scroll; it's the same way.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
They have another rule, but I don't personally like it because it hurts Night Haunt. If you roll a 6 to hit, you do D3 hits instead of 1 against Night Haunt or Demon targets. But we're not going to talk about that because we're not going to be targeting Night Haunt.
Yeah, that just sounds like a hate crime, to be honest.
Exactly.
But I'm sure I remember reading the Night Haunt have a couple of things they can do against the Stormcast. I hope so. I think there's a couple of things like that.
Right, yeah. All right, we're done Stormcast. Great, awesome.
Let's move on. They all look the same, really, don't they? But, they've got robes this time. They've got capes, which is gives them. It's a weird one because I enjoy saying not very nice things about them, but at the same time, I really want to do them.
Yeah, this new chamber is a lot better looking than the other ones, I think.
Yeah, so I'm being a bit of a hypocrite, but it's fine because I've always not liked. I can't say I like a Stormcast unit without also saying something bad about it. So
right.
That's.
So
move on to the Night Haunt stuff.
Yes, so happy about this. They gave us in this faction focus part 2. They also gave us 3 more War Scrolls to sink our teeth into. The first one we'll talk about is the Guardian of Souls. He's that guy with the lore light. He's he's holding up big staff. He's 5 wounds, 4 up save, and he's got the ethereal thing. Every one of these models is going to have the ethereal rule where they can't take positive or negative modifiers. So I like that because and Mystic Shield is different, so it really doesn't matter. But also remember that it's not going to help with our cover saves are not going to help. So any Nighthaunt army is just going to be basically ignoring cover, just running straight forward or doing whatever they need to do, but just ignoring cover since they fly and they don't even get a cover save. So that's kind of interesting.
It's something I noticed. Like I haven't been running Nighthaunt armies at all, but I've been quite often taking like a Calm Wraith or a Tomb Banshee in my army, and like even with the new change to Ethereal, when I've still used them, I've always like kept them, make sure they're in cover, and then I just think, well, that's not helping them at all. So it is a little bit of a annoyance. However, like you say, you can just be running them up the board. You don't have to worry about making sure, I don't know, that unit of 3 Spirit Hose, all their bases are on the scenery piece. You can just, it's a bit of freedom to it, if you like.
Yeah, kind of, I feel like it kind of works fluff-wise to me, because I wouldn't think the ghosts would be, like, hiding and stuff. They'd be just straight flying through walls, and, like, if it wasn't able to clear the ruins or whatever with the whole unit, then it would just split, because some of them would be like halfway through the wall and some of them would be behind the wall, some would be in front. So I think it kind of works fluff-wise with they're just ignoring cover, they're just moving right through it. They just keep moving.
Definitely. And I think it's also it's quite a cool thing for an army to have, isn't it? It makes the army all united as long as the black coach gets it.
Yeah. Guardian of Souls. 1 attack or 3 attacks, but I don't think that's what this guy's about. He adds 1 to wound rolls for Nighthaunt models within 9 inches, which is cool. That's actually really, really cool.
Yep.
He's a wizard, casts 1 spell, unbinds 1 spell. His spell is actually really good, though. It casts on a 6. You pick a summonable Nighthaunt unit within 18 inches, and you can either heal D6 wounds or recover D6 wounds worth of models. Like if you're familiar with the Legions of Nagash Gravesite rule, it just works like that, except it's D6. That's actually really good. You can bring back 6 Chain Rasps, or you could bring back 3 Hex Wraiths. You could bring back like so much stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, you could bring back 2 Spirit Hosts as well. It just makes it that much more likely. And something they haven't shown us yet is, the new like Hex Knights or whatever coming out of the Mounted Cavalry.
Yeah.
For Nighthaunt. Someone suggested in one of my videos they could be like spectral vampires or something. Well, I thought, that could be quite a cool thing. So they've certainly got big fangs. But anyway, those models might have 4 wounds or something like that. They might be quite chunky, like Gore Grunters or something. Mm-hmm. So it might be an indicator. You can bring those back or heal them, which would be nice. Yeah. And like you're saying, when you look at his melee weapon, that's not what he's here for. To be honest, when I look at Warscrolls and I see their attacks aren't fantastic, I'm like, that's brilliant, because then that means they're going to have something special in their abilities. And the Nightmare Lantern to give you the extra add 1 to your wound roll. So Nighthaunt models that are within 9 inches. Like you're saying, it's really nice because Nighthaunts certainly have many ways to get pluses to hit. To increase their chance to wound it's very good. Like if we know a Nighthaunt unit, we've already used Spirit Hosts, making that unit hit. They get +1 to hit, like hit on 4s and wound on 3s. That's not a bad stat line at all. Right.
Yeah. And with the Knight of Shrouds, he obviously adds +1 to hit. So now with the Guardian of Souls, Knight of Shrouds, you have him +1 to hit, +1 to wound. But with all units within whatever range. And we were talking about with the Spirit Host, I don't think the +1 wound will be that great. But with one of the kind of for fun things we were talking about with the Knight of Shrouds Warscoll review was to add in 5, I guess now 4, Cairn Wraiths, and then these 2 guys, and they'd be +1 to hit and wound, because Frightful Touch on 5s would go off for 2 more wounds, but then their regular attacks still do damage because they have rend 1 or 2 damage attacks. And they'd be now wounding, I think, on 2s at that point. So they'd be hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, probably have the reroll to hit. So they'd just be, like, decimating stuff. I mean, it's only a couple models, couple attacks, but still pretty neat abilities, I think.
I definitely was. Did you say that's the Hex race?
No, I was thinking about the Cairn race, actually. Just 4 Cairn race.
Yeah. Oh, the Cairn race. Yeah,
but yeah, Hex race do it too. Yeah.
And I was just thinking the Hex race. The horse as well is also getting a +1 to wound now, which is little, but if you're going against a horde unit, it's just more attacks with better characteristics. And I believe this guy is he the first and only wizard for the Night Haunt, so if you want to, you can cast your Arcane Bolt or your Mystic Shield as well.
Right, yep.
Which is cool.
Yeah. I'm going to bring him back up in a minute, but I want to talk about the Chain Rasps and stuff first. But let's move on to the Lord Executioner. He is a combat character, but he still does a little bit extra. I think a lot of people are going to pass over him pretty quickly because his attacks are nice. Since he's a combat character, let's talk about the combat. He has 3 attacks, 3 to hit, 3 to wound. Ren 2, only damage 1, but if he rolls a 6 to wound, it's damage 3, which that's pretty decent, which 3 attacks. Oh, and then if you have that the Guardian of Souls nearby, that would be doing that on +5s. 1. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good, but if he doesn't get a +5 or a +6, wherever the situation requires, his attacks are pretty, for a combat character. I mean, we don't know his points, but if they point him fairly high, he's not the best.
Yeah, they should give him a couple more attacks.
Yeah, or just, what I thought would have been really nice is if it was damage 2, yes, that would mean if he got a 6 to wound or potentially a 5 to wound, that would make his damage 4. But if he's mainly there for combat, it'll be fair. But anyway, we'll read the rest of the Warscoll first.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip this rule because I think it's one of the more important. But back to next one, disembodied skulls. Sorry, you do get a 5-up save against mortal wounds, so he's a little bit more protected. He's got the 4-up ethereal save and then the 5-up against mortal wounds. So yeah, he only gets one or the other then, so that's okay.
What, the death save you're talking about as well?
Oh right, death save as well.
If Night wants to get their death save.
Yeah, I'm curious on if they're getting it or not. I hope they do, but well, we'll see. But the rule that I think is really good about the Lord Executioner is staring death in the face. At the start of the combat phase, you can pick an enemy hero within 3 inches of the model, subtract 1 from hit rolls made by that hero in that phase. I don't think that doesn't look very good on the surface. Like you have to get your little tiny Executioner in combat with like Alariel or whoever you want to debilitate, and then you subtract 1 hit. But if you have a Mourngol hanging out with the Lord Executioner, I think that would be a good pair. They charge into a character like Alariel or one of them. Now they're -2 to hit, and they have to deal with a Mourngol and the Executioner. And I think that would be kind of difficult to come back from, being -2 to hit, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there are quite a few ways for arms, like we say, to get +1 to hit, but -2, it's pretty hard to try and come back from that. I would say, personally, that's the best thing this guy has got, because, yeah, you know, he can ignore, wounds, or more wounds, like on a 5+, and there's a chance of him doing 3 damage in his attacks. But if it wasn't for that staring death in the face ability, I, to be honest, wouldn't take this guy at all, just because his combat isn't reliable enough. But if you can make the enemy -1 to hit, he's got a purpose.
Yeah.
Well, the enemy hero. Because like you say, Alariel, or if you want to go the big guys, you know, like Archaon or Nagash, or even just the smaller ones, like if you've got things like a Skull Grinder for, you know, the Blades of Khorne, he's just a little guy, but he's a complete combat hero. He does 3 damage on his attacks. He can be really nasty, making him just -1 to hit because there's nothing else in range. It's not bad. He's got a purpose. I originally, when I first read this rule, I thought it was -1 only to hit the Lord Executioner. But it's -1 in general. No, that's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's some synergies there that are waiting to be exploited. The last War Scroll that we'll cover is the Chain Rasp Horde, which I really like these models. I keep saying it, but I really like them. All these little tiny guys. Because this is the first time Sigmar has made little tiny guys. Like, the Fire Slayers, they're short guys, but they're still on the 32mm bases. I don't think the Chain Rasps are. I think they're on the smaller ones, the 25.
Yeah, the 25mm.
So it's cool to see Sigmar have, like, little tiny models that are meant to be a horde. And like you were saying, with suspecting they're a 5-up save, they still have Ethereal, but they do a 5-up save. So that's a little bit less than I was expecting, actually. I was figuring they had a 5-up or a 4-up. Oh, and I just noticed they have a Bravery 6. I think they're the only undead model with not a Bravery 10. That's interesting.
Yeah, it hurts a lot, but when you read everyone a bit, you realise that it doesn't matter. The 5+ save, 4+ would have been really nice, but to be honest, I think their save could have equally been a 6+ save, so a 5-up save is good because they don't take any rend. So you're always going to have a 5+ save, which is generally better than like your skeletons. Right. And if these guys are going to be better aligned, I imagine they're going to be 100 points for 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would hope
I don't know if that's true, but it sounds about right. Their attacks aren't bad.
I think this is what you were alluding to, the Dread Warden ability, which if they have a champion, they're Bravery 10 instead of 6. Wow, okay. Why? Like, just make them 10. Like, you're going to remove the champion last. Whatever.
Yeah, there's no other special models in this unit, so the champion's going to die last. I mean, yeah, there's the chance the giant could pick up your champion and stuff them in a bag. That could happen. Or there's more that's going to happen is a Star Drake's going to wander up to this unit like some sort of overgrown, overexcited lizard and eat your champion. Not going to lie, if a Star Drake wanders towards this lizard, this unit, you've got no rend, so it wouldn't matter anyway. But yeah, I remember reading, I was like, Bravery 6? What? That's not good at all. And then I read that and I was like, oh, okay. It just involves reading a bit more. There's a weird way to do it.
Right. And then
that's fine. They have Bravery 10. I'm happy.
Yeah, right. Okay. And then the last rule is they reroll wound rolls of 1 when they're 10 miles or more. Their attacks they have 2 attacks, 4 is a hit, 4 is a wound, no rend, 1 damage. So they're not very spectacular. Even skeletons, I say even skeletons. Skeletons actually do quite a bit of damage. A horde of skeletons versus a horde of chain rasps. I think the chain rasps are more durable, but the skeletons are far more offensive.
Yeah, there is. I mean, rerolls the wound rolls of 1 is nice, especially if you can if you've got 10 or more models. Especially if you can try and get most of your models within 9 inches of the other Warscoll we looked at. The Guardian of Souls, to give them +1 to wound. But I think realistically, if you have a big unit of these guys, that's going to be hard to do. So yeah, going back to comparing them with skeletons, it's a shame these guys don't really have if there's 10 or more models in this unit, they get +1 to wound. If there's 20 more models in this unit, they get +2. Do you know what I mean? That sort of.
Right.
Against skeletons, if it was 10 skeletons against 10 of these guys will win. Apart from that, though, I think they play a different role, don't they? They're a lot hardier than skeletons. They've got a better save. Mm-hmm. They don't take rend. They move 6 pretty damn fast.
Yeah, with fly. And that's great.
Yeah, and if they're not going to get any more attacks from having more models in the unit, at least they start off with 2 attacks. Because if they started off with 1 attack, that would be very meh,
Yeah, right.
But one thing I have to say about, because we looked at all 3 of the Warscrolls they've shown us, is an army with, like we say, all has the ethereal ability makes it pretty good. I mean, when we're looking at the Stormcast and we're saying, but that crossbow has, that artillery piece has -2 rend to it, and there was like, that's not going to really do anything to these Nighthawns. When I say not do anything, I mean it won't do anything. Unless the Black Coach rules don't get changed. Nothing will be affected by -2.
Right.
So yeah, you can have your Chain Strap Horde, only a 5+ save. At least there's always going to be a 5+ save. Mystic Shield on these guys, you want to 5-up save, rerun on 1s. It's not bad, It's It's
And,
pretty good.
and we'll see what the maximum size is, because everything points to they start at 20 models. Like, they come in boxes of 20. Like, I think they're going to be 40, maybe 60 models. That'd be so cool. If there are 60 model hordes, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, that will. I really hope they're not like 30.
Yeah.
Because there's a chance of that, but I reckon, yeah.
I hope it's at least 40.
I hope so. I reckon when they come out separately, you'll also buy them in boxes of 20, because like you say, that's how they've been showcasing them.
Right.
And I reckon they might be, I think they'll be minimal size 10 in a unit, because there's the odd picture where you see them with just 10.
Oh, okay.
And maximum size, hopefully 40. It would be lovely if it was like 60, because imagine just having that many. Imagine having 2 units of 60 of these and they don't take any rend.
Yeah.
Be nice fun task for the enemy to spend their Saturday afternoon trying to get rid of. But yeah, well, again, we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Right. And I think
wait's not too much longer.
That's true. I think one of the most important things of the Chain Rasp hordes, or actually one of the best abilities, even if you want to call it that, is one of the keywords, summonable. Having the ability to bring back your models is just crazy. Like, I've been doing Lords of Sacrament with 2 blocks of 40 skeletons. They just never die, because they just heal back all the time. And with the Guardian, what was it, Guardian of Souls? Yeah, Guardian of Souls heals back D6 models. And then they introduced that other guy the other couple weeks ago, the other Night Haunt.
The guy with
unit.
the locks, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember his name right now. But yeah, the guy with the locks, he heals D3 unit of models back. So you could be healing D3 plus D6, plus you could have more of those D3 guys. But then also, it says at the bottom of this article, they go in Legions of Nagash, which I really hope there's still battle line in Legion of Nagash. I think they are, but we'll see. Then go in Legion of Nagash and be near a gravesite, and then get even more wounds or models back. So they can be, on top of having that 5-up save and then Deathless Minions, they're healing back like quite a few models back. And then Deathly Invocation from Necromancers and stuff like that. Those all affect these models.
Yep, I mean, you can actually look at them and you think, well, you're only going to have a Nighthorn army. In Legions of the Nagash army, like you say, they might still be pretty good. Or if you can take a Necromancer as an ally, I don't know if you can do that, but if you can, it's just an extra way to do it. And like you're saying with the Guardian of Souls, to bring D6 of them back. As far as I'm aware, just reading through the rule now, you can do that multiple times in the same unit if you have more than more like 2 Guardians of the Souls.
Right, yeah. Well, not the Guardian of the Souls, the other guy.
Can you not?
I don't think you can stack Guardians. Yeah, you can only cast that spell once from Guardian of the Souls. But
sorry, yeah, it's a spell. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, but the chain guys, they can be used. Each chain guy can be used to bring back D3 more models.
Yeah, the Spirit Torment.
That's it.
Yeah. A pick for a unit within 6 inches. I'll just read the rule now. So, it's the captured soul energy. So at the start of the battle shock phase, if 3 or more enemy models were slain that turn, pick a friendly Nighthorn unit within 6 inches of this model and heal D3 wounds that have been allocated to it. If 3 or more enemy Stormcast Eternals were slain that turn, heal 3 wounds instead of D3. Was that? And then it says alternatively, yeah, you can bring back the models instead. So yeah, it's an extra way for you to do it, and because that's not a spell,
yeah, we can stack that one on the same target.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Sorry, just reading what it says. If your army includes more than 1 Spear Torment, at least 3 enemy models must have been slain during the turn for each Spirit Torment. Okay, so you just need to kill more of the enemy, and then yeah, you can stack it.
Right.
And also, just going back to this guy, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for friendly Nighthorn units while they are wholly within 12 inches of any friendly Spirit Torments. So again, wholly within 12 inches, but it's an extra way to get rerolls.
Huh. So I don't know if it's all worth it, but you can have the Chain Rasp next to the Guardian of the Souls, and then what was that guy you just talked about? What was his name?
Reroll hit rolls of 1 for friendly Nighthorn units while they are wholly within 12 inches of any friendly spirit torments. So
Right.
that's his name, Spirit Torment.
So if you're also next to a Knight of Shrouds, you could be hitting and wounding on 3s with rerolls of 1 on both of them. It's only 2 attacks, but you might have 40, maybe more, Chain Rasp Hordes, and they're durable on top of that, so they're just like bleeding the opponent like slowly with attacks over, like a bunch of attacks over time that are fairly accurate, and then not dying in return. So that'd be kind of neat. And
Yeah.
I wonder how. I think they're going to be just good as long as they're battle line in Legion and Nagash. I think they'll show up in Legion and Nagash armies too. I don't think they're going to be stuck in just Nighthaunt armies.
No, I think from what we can see, I think they'll be good in Legions and Nagash, and I think they will shine in Nighthaunt. I think we've talked about this before, haven't we? That just surprised how big this Nighthaunt release is. It's not like Daughters of Cain or something where they get a few new units and a new battle tome. This is like a whole new army with a battle tome, and it's like, oh yeah, in case you guys forgot, there's already a couple of units out for them already, being the Spirit Host and the Hex Race.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Like we keep forgetting about Spirit Host and Hex Race, but they are there already, and they're still cool looking models. So I think they're still going to show up. I hope the Hex Race go down in points though.
Hopefully so. What was interesting to see though in the Legions and the Gash book is that all the Nighthorn units, all of them on 6 to hit, got to do mortal wounds instead of normal damage.
Yeah, and then they're taking away that.
But we haven't seen that repeated in these new Warscrolls.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be a sign that it was going to continue, but haven't seen it even once on these new models. Which, that's fine, whatever.
Yeah, because to be honest with like the... what do we call them? The Chain Rasp Orb. If they did have 2 attacks each, and on 6 they did more, it would be maybe 1 attack each, and they did 6s if they wanted to keep it that way. But I'm surprised the Lord Executioner doesn't do it.
Yeah, right.
Because the Calm Wraith's a better Executioner than he is. on average.
Yeah.
No, it'd be weird to see. And also, we look at all these things and think, oh, that's quite good and that's quite good. And, like, there might be an artifact out there where it gives you +1 to wound. And if you put it on the Lord Executioner and he's next to the other guy, he's doing 3 damage on 4 ups to wound.
Yeah. There you go.
We haven't even seen Allegiance abilities yet or whatever.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. All I have. I did. I picked up the White Dwarf for this month, and apart from having some pretty cool posters, there was a battle report that I skimmed over. Mostly because it was basically the Sacrosanct versus Nighthaunt. A couple extra models in there, but they had the Murmorn Banshees. Those 4 Banshee models that I thought were Shadespire team. I don't think they are anymore. I think they're just cool looking models.
I thought they were that. I asked my store manager, and he says he confirmed they're not Shadespire.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of confusing, but they're really cool models. And I pretty much just skimming through the battle report just to see what they did. But the only thing I learned is they have fly and they move kind of fast, but that was already expected. But they dispel spells, so I guess there's something to that. They unbind spells or something like that.
Yeah, that's something they can add into it. But for me, I really like the models, so that's why I'll be happy.
So cool looking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. To be honest, I don't play Shadespire, so personally, for me, might be a bit self-centered, but I'm quite glad they're not Shadespire, because if they were, they would probably have rules in Age of Sigmar as well, but they wouldn't transfer over that well. Like you've got the Cervical Guard, I believe they are for the skeletons for the Shadespire, where their rules aren't in the Legions of Nagash battle tome, so they can't be in Legions of Nagash, and it would just be all a bit too confusing. So I'm glad that they are made just for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really curious what they do. They're so cool.
And you've also got the more sort of, I was going to say more dynamic posing.
For the Grim...
To be honest, they're all dynamic poses of the what's the Nighthaunt?
Glaive Wraith Stalkers.
Yeah, the Glaive Wraith Stalkers. Yeah, those ones.
I like the drummer. He's so cool.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, I saw something on Facebook where it's like when you've got to kill the Sons of the Traitor Sigmar at 8, but you've got band practice at 9, something like that. But they are cool, and that maybe shows that the drum might give another benefit.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
it's all that. The multi-part kits, I reckon they're going to be the same sort of price as the Shadespire kits. I reckon something. I'm going to be optimistic with them. I'm going to say £10. All knowing that they're probably going to be about £20, but I'm going to say like £10 or something for those kits, and we have to wait and see.
They don't have cards in there or anything. It's not like it. Yeah, I don't see how it couldn't be.
Yeah, that's true. But Games Workshop also sells like small hero models for like £20.
Yeah.
So we have to wait and see.
So actually, we actually forgot something. I can't believe how we did it. We haven't talked about it at all. They released 2 silhouette pictures, but one picture of that guy in the throne. I can't remember his name anymore, but the Nighthaunt model in the throne, and he's got the guys on the side, one with a standard, one with like a little horn he's playing. You remember him?
Yes, I remember him. I don't remember his name, but I remember him.
So cool looking. I really liked him. That was one of the final nail in the coffin. I was still kind of on the fence about Nighthaunt. I was like, I really like the models, but I really like Daughters of Cain at the same time. And then I saw him. I was like, oh man, Nighthaunt it is.
Yeah, and for me as well, you would have seen it, haven't you? The trailer that came out for Soul Wars. What a lovely undead Pegasus that is.
Yeah, the king. The king. His name is Kurdos Valentian, the Craven King. But yeah, they showed the Mortarch of Grief too. That female banshee character.
She looks so good, and I love like the veil she has over her face, so you can't like see her facial features and stuff. Like it just makes her look really like sinister. Yeah,
and then that horse creature you're talking about, that thing looks awesome too. He looks really cool.
Yeah, and also what I mentioned when I did a review on the trailer was you can't go off, you can't judge the size of a model going off its artwork because it's a bit too difficult. But if, say, you could judge the size of the model, that like the Grim Reaper, where he looks to be on the Undead Pegasus, that Undead Pegasus looks like it's the same sort of size as the Mortarch of Grief.
Yeah.
But it's just artwork, so you can't judge it. But if you can, so I've got very, very, very big wings, or it's going to be a huge. It's going to be something that's almost as powerful as the Mortarch of Grief. I don't know.
Yeah, and also in that trailer was a Stormcast model they haven't shown anything of. That Griffin thing, that looked freaking awesome. That was cool.
It did, and you saw it, didn't you? It wasn't just me, so that's good. So there are more Stormcast units coming out on top of it, so that's good. We got that sorted.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, that beastie does look very nice. It looks a little bit like a griffin, but it's more like I think like a lion crossed with a horse crossed with a ram.
Right. What is it, Chimera? What are they called? Chimera, I think.
Yes, maybe something that's to do with mythology, but not too much to do with mythology. So Games Workshop can copyright it. But yeah, that does look really nice, and it looks to be a wizard on top of it. That's like one of these new Stormcast wizards.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I was quite surprised at that as well, because they didn't even mention it, or they didn't even showcase it a little bit like they did with a couple of other Nighthaunt units. They sort of just showed it in the trailer and didn't really talk about it.
Yeah, right. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of like that they're doing that, though. They're just, like with the Mortarch of Grief and the other guy and this character, they just kind of showed him in some artwork and really didn't say much about him.
No, it leads more mystery as well. We know enough stuff, don't we, about what's coming out, that if they told us any more, we probably couldn't deal with it, and there's even more coming out which we don't even know too much about, and that's the most exciting part, that it's not all over come the 30th of June by the looks of things.
Right.
It's going to keep them coming.
Well, I think that was enough time for our viewers.
Yeah, I think that's everything, isn't it? What we've covered.
Yep. Well, it was great having you on the show, Age of Nagash. I'm glad we got to chat a little bit, catch up with the news, and talk about Age of Sigmar 2. If you're listening to this on Age of Nagash's channel, my name is I'm the Twinned Coot. That's my channel name. and I do Warscoll reviews and Data Slate reviews for 40k and Age of Sigmar, mostly tactical advice, tactical reviews, and content like that. So check me out.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on your channel again. It's been great. I knew as soon as this article came out and all the other news, I was like, I can't talk about this all by myself. So it was great to do another joint video. And again, when this video goes into my channel, I'll have your link to Twinned Coot in the description. So like he's already said, go check him out. He does really nice reviews on Warscoll and data sheets for the 40k, and really just tells you a few more tactics you might not have seen when you first looked at them.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming, Agent Nagash. Thanks for listening, the audience. Let us know your questions or comments in the questions or suggestions in the comments below. And thanks for watching, and happy wargaming.